श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Two kinds of vrittis: aham vritti, idam vritti. One shines, meaning brings to light, meaning illumines. What does it illumine? All the internal modifications, changes, etc. Karta, bhokta, pramata, jnata, manta, all this. And the other one shines, illumines external objects that, like what? Pot, etc. So the idam vritti is basically object vritti. Aham vritti is the ahankara, the subject, which is now seer, now hearer, now thinker, now having a meltdown. So this is the varying nature of the subject. And the ahankara vritti means I thought, which rides on this I notion. And what is this I notion? A finite conglomeration of the body-mind sense complex, headed by the king Ahankara. The Ahankara has a lot of premium in identifying with the body-mind sense complex, completely and totally, to its own detriment. That's what it is. To its own ruin. It identifies with the body, it identifies with the mind, the senses, it identifies with all the things it has, it identifies with itself, with various statuses. Now hearer, now thinker, now seer, all these things. And so this ahankara is just mired, steeped in finitude. And so the aham vritti is also what? Steeped in finitude. And then, as though this wasn't bad enough, now so this is just one part of the aham idam vritti. We are just summarizing, we are recapping what we have studied so far. Further, what do we find? We find that the aham vritti does not stay in its lane, and what does it do? Interferes with and then gets affected by everything that the idam vritti illumines. So the mix-up of the aham with the idam, the as-though mix-up we have to say, because it cannot really get mixed up, the as-though mix-up of the aham and the idam is a manifestation of atma ajnanam and is the cause of sorrow and fear, aka samsara. The cause of samsara is the mix-up of the aham with the idam, thanks to the ahankara, which says, I am this much alone. I am the extent of my bank balance. And that's why I am unbalanced. And then I am the extent of what I know. Some people live in their heads. They are just cut off from the neck downwards. So they live in their heads. So they have all these ideas and they write papers and these academic types. And then they live in their heads, they write papers, they write books. And then you ask them a simple question, how are you feeling? I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling. What is a feeling? You have to explain everything to them. And so for such people who live in their heads, what are they? They have a big premium. I am a knower. I'm a thinker. I'm very intelligent. I know all these formulas in whatever subject matter they excel in. I know all this. Whatever branch of knowledge they have mastered, they know everything in that whatever. And then what happens? Supposing, God forbid, something happens. Cognitive decline can happen with age. And then what else could? God forbid, something like stroke or something happens. And then what? They feel like the whole rug has been taken away. Their whole identity has been taken away. Because I am a bunch of ideas. I am nothing but a bunch of notions, ideas, ideologies, and I am nothing but this particular subject matter. This identification is like that. So the mix-up of aham with idam is the cause of sorrow. And then what Swami Vidyaranya seems to be doing here is basically summarizing the Adhyasa Bhashya for us. Adi Shankara's introductory Bhashya to the what's its name? Brahma Sutra. He seems to be summarizing it very well. And then many kinds of mix-up are discussed. We saw two. We saw what did we see? We saw the mix-up between Atma and Anatma, taking Atma to be Anatma, making the Atma finite. We saw that one. And then taking the objects to be infinite, confusing the objects to be infinite and getting attached to them as though they are my sanctuary and they are the ones who are, they are Satchidananda, thinking like that and getting attached to finite things, situations, people, etc. And then what? Getting sad each time that goes away. Okay, so then these two forms of adhyasa we have discussed. Atmani anatma adhyasa, anatmani atma adhyasa. These two we have discussed in fairly good detail. Then there are other kinds of adhyasa also. Two more I will mention because it is pertinent to our study in general, even though it is not discussed here in the text. It is still worthwhile. This is called, these two adhyasas are called jnanadhyasa and arthadhyasa. So arthadhyasa we will take first. Arthadhyasa is exemplified by our regular stock example. What is that mistake we make? Rope snake. What else do we have? Pot clay and rope snake. In pot clay there is no mistake. In rope snake what is there? Mistake is there. So in rope snake there is a mistake. What is the mistake? I take the rope. Here there is a frayed rope lying on the ground and the front of it is like this. It looks like the forked tongue of a snake. It's lying on the ground and I look at it in low light and I am frayed. Looking at the rope, I am frayed. And then what do I think? Snake. So then somebody is kind enough to shine the light on that blessed rope and tell me it is my aropa. That's why it's called rope, because there is aropa. Superimposition. A mistaken notion. So then the aropa clears away. Now I know what is it? Not snake but rope. I know it is my aropa. Now it is only a ropa. I know this. And then when the rope comes to light, what happens to the snake? Is it on the rope? Did it slither off into the bushes? Where is the snake? It has been retracted. The projection has been retracted, resolved. The projection was here, the snake was here, and the snake was projected onto something that I could partially know but not fully understand. And then after I found out the truth of that adhisthana means the basis, the truth, upon which the snake was projected, the snake has been withdrawn back to the antahkarana, because it was a projection of the antahkarana. This is called arthadhyasa. And why is this important? Because at the end of the story, when the correction takes place, what happens to the snake? Gone, resolved. So the adhyasa, the object of adhyasa, disappears in the wake of which knowledge? That is called arthadhyasa. And then, so this, if this is understood, we can discuss the second type. This is called jnanadhyasa. And the stock example is sunset. I never give sunrise as an example because people say, what is that? Rarely awake, barely awake. Sunset is safe. Yeah. So sunset, what happens during sunset? This also is an adhyasa, is it not? Is there a sun that has suddenly become orange? No. Is it setting in the Pacific Ocean, for example, or behind the building or behind the mountain? Is it setting? No. Neither has the sun become an orange ball, nor is it setting. This is just a visual, apparently we see that. What is really happening? We know because of our geography lessons. What is happening? It's the apparition is created by the rotation of the earth around itself. The earth is doing pradakshina around itself. Yani kani cha papani, it's going. So it's doing pradakshina around itself, and then it's giving. Because of that, the movement of the earth is imperceptible. We cannot say, oh, now it's moving here. It's not like sitting in a revolving restaurant. There the movement is still perceptible. The view changes. You started the dinner somewhere and then you ended at the dinner somewhere else. So this is what happens, and then therefore the adhyasa is resolved, because now I know. Now I have got a very good geography lesson, so I know when the earth moves, and then depending on where I am situated at the earth, that also is important. Depending on whether I am in India, I am in South America, I am in Alaska, wherever I am, then there is a different experience of the sunset. Near the equator, there is a different sunset experience. And then what? Up in the north, there is no sunset experience. The sun just goes around you. This is again a as though movement. But anyhow, if we take the regular sunset experience, then now I know the sun neither sets nor rises. And then after that, the next day when I look at the sunset, does the sun stop setting? Now that I have this knowledge. Like the snake went away, does the sunset also go away? No. Sunset does not go away. This is called jnana adhyasa. An adhyasa that is resolved through jnanam. Jnana adhyasa. An adhyasa that is resolved through artha. Artha here means the disappearance of that object. The mistaken object disappears in the wake of knowledge. The first kind of adhyasa here when we are discussing. The second kind is what? The mistaken object does not disappear, but I have knowledge. In my cognition, the sunset has disappeared. I no longer think the sun is setting, but yet I can enjoy it. Now, if these two adhyasas are understood, then when I have adhyasa, like for the original ajnanam, what is the original ajnanam? Moola avidya. Moola avidya means centered on I. The ajnanam that is centered on I, when the Atma is mistaken to be the karta, when the Atma is mistaken to be the bhokta, etc., then when that is resolved in the wake of knowledge, is this arthadhyasa or is this jnanadhyasa? Very interesting. Jnanadhyasa? Jnanadhyasa? Yes? Yes? We are all wrong. We are all wrong. And I'll tell you, I am with you. I can understand how you thought that. Okay? I'm sympathetic to this mistake because I can understand how everybody thought this was jnana-adhyasa. Why did everybody think it was jnana-adhyasa? Because the universe goes on as before. It's not that everybody has glommed down to one Brahman. There is not that actual oneness. It's not that the Jagat has disappeared. The Jagat continues. Correct? So it's very quickly and very easily we can and neatly we can wrap this up by concluding what? Jnanadhyasa. But that's not true. And I'll give you a compelling reason why it is not true. It ain't true because if it were jnana-adhyasa, that means samsara should continue. We forgot that. Yeah. There is samsara disappears in the wake of knowledge. This is what we are talking of. When the ajnanam is resolved, because of ajnanam I have anyatha jnanam. Anyatha jnanam means what? Wrong knowledge. So because of this I have wrong knowledge, and the wrong knowledge is resolved, samsara falls away. I have to look for it. Where is samsara? I don't find it. Therefore, the resolution of Atma Ajnanam is what? Arthadhyasa. Resolution. It's Arthadhyasa. Atma Jnanam is Arthadhyasa, not Jnanadhyasa. Yeah. Otherwise, the samsara should continue, everything should continue as usual. And then what? So you can say I'm enlightened, but I'm a crying jnani. I'm a weeping jnani. I'm an angry jnani. I'm a sad jnani. What is your name? Sadananda. So, there was one Swami that came to town one time. I don't remember where it was, somewhere in Michigan or somewhere when I was there. And then they said, can you please introduce him? I said, sure, what is his name? And that it was a interfaith meeting. And the American lady said, Sadananda. I said, no, that's not his name. Most definitely that's not his name. For many reasons. And I schooled her because she was going to say his name and that I was going to introduce. Okay, so I schooled her. But still at the function she said, Sadananda. She just forgot. She was nervous in front of all the people. And so that's what we would be. So then what? Then also we would have anantya hanihi. Anantya hanihi means the limitlessness would take a hit. How can you say I'm limitless when I'm still suffering from sorrow? Then what else? Shastra anarthakyam. Shastra anarthakyam means the uselessness of the Shastra. Already not many people are ready to study the Shastra, and then if samsara should continue, if it was a jnana-adhyasa and samsara continues, ajnanam continues even in the wake of knowledge, then what? What is the use of Shastra? Shastra can be just thrown away because it does not fulfill the promise of moksha. So therefore, what kind of adhyasa? When the mix-up of aham and idam is resolved, then what? The mix-up, the apparent mix-up does not continue. It is gone, dropped forever. So samsara does not continue, but we will definitely continue further. 10th verse. Ikshe shrinomi jigrami swadayami smrishamyaham iti bhasayate sarvam nrityashalasthadeepavat. Yeah. So, now we are getting into the heart of the chapter, for which it is named Nataka Deepa. So here, Nritya Shala means the dance hall. Actually, I don't think there was a hall. I think it was more of a outdoor amphitheater type, where everything, all the seats, maybe they are made of stone, the seats are made in semicircle, and then there is a stage. And where the seats are there and the stage are there, in the middle there is a kind of a little tower upon which the lamp is lit. Nrityashala Deepavat. This is not called simile, this is not upama, this is a figure of speech called Rupaka, metaphor. So we'll see how the metaphor functions, because it is a very involved metaphor, almost like an allegory of what needs to be illustrated. So here, what does, let us look at the meaning first. Ikshe, I see. Shrinomi, I hear. Jigrami. What is jigrami? Yeah, don't say I smell. That gives a very wrong... yeah, people will back away slowly. Say, I pick up the smells. You have to be careful in translating. Yeah, that's why I asked the meaning. Okay, ikshe, I see, I hear, I pick up a lot of smells, pick up so many fragrances. Then, swadayami, I taste. And then finally, sprishami. Sprishami means what? I touch. And then, bhasayate sarvam. Bhasayate sarvam means, in this manner, deepavat, nrityashala deepavat, this sakshi, this sakshi, what does this sakshi do? This sakshi illumines these states. What are the states? Now seer, now hearer, now the one who is smelling a flower, now the one who is tasting something, now the one who is touching something, is illumined by Sakshi. Who is Sakshi? Chidvapuhu, we saw that, whose form is nothing but Chit, which is all Chit. That formless Chit is its body. It's Chit personified, Chit incarnate, sentience incarnate, limitless sentience incarnate. What does it do? It functions as a witness, and then don't get too stuck up here also with the word witness, because the witness word is also relative. It functions as the witness when something is there to be witnessed as idam or as aham. So here the aham is given. What is this aham? I see, like a little child. I'm the seer. Nobody else is the seer. I'm the seer. Sorry, we all see, okay? You're not the only one seeing. Oh, Shrinomi, I hear. The ahankara is like a little kid wanting attention. Mommy, look at what I have done. Look. This is what the ahankara jumping around says. I see, I hear, I taste. I'm doing this. Look. And to this you can add, I'm the karta. I did it. I did it. I did it. I'm the victim. I'm done in. First I am the doer. I'm the doer. I'm the doer. And then after that what? I am done in by other people's doings. And then I am the victim of all the bad people in the universe. And somehow, everybody bad is in my life only. Other people's lives, there are wonderful people. I have this sad ananda in the form of bad people in my life. I am victimized. This too is illumined. And so basically, where Swami Vidyaranya wants to take us is to be very clear when you say, I see next time. What does he want you to say instead? If not say, to think. I am the witness of the status of seer. Oh my God, that's a long thing to keep thinking or saying. I'm sure I will not remember this. Can you make it a little easier? Sure. I know I see. I am the witness of the sight. I know I see. I know I hear. I know I'm picking up the smell. That first I know is what that? It's not an act. It's an illumination. Even though we technically use the verb to know, it is just aupacharikam. It's just a formality. It's not really an action. Just like when we say the sun shines. Is shining an action for the sun? A deliberate action? No, it is its very nature. The breeze blows. Blowing is not an action by the breeze. By nature it is blowing everywhere. The river flows. Even though the word blow and flow are verbs, still, it's the nature of the river to flow, it's the nature of the wind to blow, it's the nature of the sun to shine, but we don't have words in the language. So we are constrained to use verbs even though they don't function like verbs at all. And so when I say, I am the witness of my seeing, or in other words, I know I see, this knowing is not an action. This knowing is the nature of the being, myself, which is a knowing being naturally. I am naturally a knowing being. So therefore, when you say next time, I see, I hear, I do this, I do that, I am the actor, I am the witness. No, nobody says that. Very rarely do they say that. I am the done-in, I am the victim. When you say that, you can give yourself a little inner space by saying what? I observe that I am a seer. I observe that I am the hearer. I witness my kartritvam, my doership. I am witnessing my doership. I am witnessing my victimization. Then already there is some inner space. And the face does not look all sad and discomposed and as though there is as though there is some terrible calamity that has befallen. So, this way I give myself some inner space. And what is this inner space? Pujya Swamiji talked about it at length. The inner space in the context of this text is between the aham and the idam vritti. Between the subject and object, I have to give myself some inner space and see the aham vritti as just one more vritti. Because ultimately the ahankara is also what? Idam. It's masquerading as aham. I have to be able to see that. So between these vrittis and the witness, there is a natural space which I have to occupy. And fortified by that space, then what happens? Samsara doesn't have a leg to stand on. This is the beauty of the teaching. And of course, Pujya Swamiji's famous example was what? The actor who has to play the role of beggar. Actor had to play the role of the beggar. Famous Hollywood actor playing the role of a beggar. In fact, you couldn't recognize him at all. In the photos, he looked very dapper, and now here he's got some terrible makeup and he's wearing tatters. And then he has to say, I haven't eaten in 3 days, please feed me. And he has to go and beg at every house, and they are slamming the door in his face. And he gets sadder and sadder and bursts into tears. This is the scene. Lights, camera, action. And he goes, and he cries. Even while crying, does he think he's the beggar? No. In fact, he's congratulating himself. Today I cried without rubbing my eyes, needing to rub my eyes, without poking myself, and without glycerine, putting some artificial tears and all. I could cry naturally. Hey, maybe I'm looking at an Oscar. Maybe this movie will make it, and then make big at the box office, and then I will get the Best Actor award. He's thinking this all the time. When? While he's crying bitterly, he has that inner space, because he knows very well 2 things he knows. First thing he knows is that at the end of the day, he can take off the tatters, take off the makeup, go to his house, somewhere in Beverly Hills, and then do what? Sit in his gazebo, which is kind of an umbrella with some seats in it, and then he can have a drink which has its own umbrella. I've never understood that. He knows very well. And he knows one more thing. What does he know? He's not really a beggar. He's playing the role of a beggar without being the beggar. He is playing the role of the beggar. He knows why. Because even as he is crying bitterly, I have not eaten in 72 hours, he knows his bank balance is going up, because he charges thousands of dollars for 1 hour of shooting. He knows that. So, therefore, that's how through this story, Pujya Swamiji got his very beautiful formula. And before we see the formula, let us see the thing here. So, who is this actor and who is this beggar? Who is this beggar, first of all? The beggar is nothing but the actor. The body of the beggar is the body of the actor. The mind of the beggar is the mind of the actor. In fact, the whole beggar is actor. Is the actor a beggar? No. So therefore, the formula is B is A, but A is not B. What is B? Beggar. Beggar is actor, A, but A is not B. Pujya Swamiji's famous formula. And that is what we have to recall. I mean, it's brilliant. It is simple, brilliant, and beautiful. And we can't really top that. So, Pujya Swamiji's formula is very pertinent here. Ikshe, Shrinomi, Jigrami, and these are all, prime areas where the obfuscation between the idam and the aham can take place. I see, and as soon as I see what? I want. First I was a seer, now I am a wanter. I have to have. And if I don't have, I'm sad. So all these things, all these changes, in all these changes, the witness is very much there, but unrecognized and unappreciated. That witness is Brahman, is the cause of the universe, is Ishvara, is Paramatma, Advaya, Ananda, Purna. This is what we have to see. So, Ikshe, Shrinomi, Jigrami, and Swadayami, Sprishami cha. And then these are all various states which are illumined by what? Sakshi, witness consciousness. What is witness consciousness? Consciousness that right now is obtaining as witness. And then bhasayate sarvam, it lights up everything. Like what? Like the dance hall firebrand. You can't even call it lamp. It's not a lamp. It's a firebrand. Between the audience and then the stage, there is this some kind of a tower over which, small tower, or some kind of a stick over which they put a lot of oil and then cloth and everything, and then they keep it burning. Like the theatre lamp illumines everything. See, we have to think of the old style theatre, not the current theatre. Current theatre, if you are thinking, then this metaphor will not work at all. Current theatre is what? Everything is black when you go in. And then what? The actors are also all modern plays, wearing black. And then what? One of them comes and then there is a spotlight on that one. Another one comes, there is a spotlight on that one. The stage is fully black. This is not like that. Here everything is illumined. And we have to think of the ancient stages where Bharatnatyam and all these things were, which were used for all these kinds of music and dance performances. So what does the Nataka Deepa illumine is given in the next verse. Nrityashala sthito deepaha prabhum sabhyamscha nartakim Deepayed, there is a mistake here, it should be Deepayed avisheshena. Okay? Deepayed avisheshena tada bhavepi deepyate. Yeah. Nrityashala sthitaha deepaha. This light which is situated in the dance theatre, in the amphitheatre, and then sthitaha means remaining in the amphitheatre. What does it light? It deepayet. It would light. What would it light? It would light the Prabhum. Prabhu here is king, not to Ishvara. Okay, don't go there. Yeah. Prabhu is the king. Usually the dance performances and all was for the king. The king and queen would come, and they were the what's that? The guests of honor for this dance. So they would have special seats somewhere in the front, and some people would come to see the dance, but they would also see where is the king. And thanks to the light of the Nrityashala, thanks to that firebrand light, they would say, the king is seated in his seat, see? Yeah. Alternatively, Prabhu also could mean patron, like a rich nobleman or somebody like that, who is a patron of the arts, who is the patron of the dance, and who would have said, this like a connoisseur, a great connoisseur of the arts, and a great patron who patronizes all these people, the artists, some rich person, he or she would come. That's also called Prabhu. What did they do? They called up the dancer. Of course, there were no phones there, but however, they brought the dancer, they brought the musicians, they arranged for this, so therefore they will also have a seat of honor. And the light lights them up. So especially if the king is coming, there will be a carpet rolled out, and then people, girls and sprinkling, what is that called, rose water on them, on the king and queen as they come, and sprinkling flower petals. And they come and take their seat, velvet seats and velvet spread on the seats, all kinds of asana and everything. And even after they take the seat, there will be two people on either side waving the fly whisk. So that, no, it will be evening time, which is what? Mosquito Bhandara, okay? so they Bhandara means feast, okay? So this is a feast for the mosquitoes. So then therefore they would be wearing this, they would be waving this yak tail whisk, so that there would be no mosquitoes. So all this, what is illumining? Nrityashala Deepaha Prabhum. So this is the patron. And then Sabhyaha. Sabhyaha. Sabha means assembly. Sabhyaha means Sabha Yogyaha. Very interesting here. Sabha Yogyaha means the one who is fit to be seated in that assembly. You can't get one ignoramus and then, make them sit in a classical music concert. What will happen? They will compete with the musician with their snoring. In the first 2 minutes, they will go to sleep. They don't have an appreciation, or they'll be restless, or they'll get up and go. So, Sabhyaha means Sabha Yogyaha. Those that have some idea, they may not know fully, but they can recognize some of the ragas, they can recognize the footwork, they can appreciate the dancer, they can appreciate the music. So, Sabhyaha means civilized people. Samskritaha. What is Samskrita? Samskrita Buddhayaha. What is Samskrita Buddhi? A Buddhi that knows Sanskrit. No. No. Samskrita Buddhi means a refined Buddhi. Sattvika Pradhanaha Sabhyaha. Those who have more sattva. Because if one is in Rajas and Tamas, these kinds of programs will not attract. They will also go to music concert, but the one that is called by a band called Death Rattle, okay? So, what is that? Some kind of heavy metal music. What is there? Only noise. Lots of cacophony is there. There is neither raga, nor there is tala, nor there is anything. But lot of noise is there, enough to din out samsara from the head for 2 hours. That's all it is. And then you come back and you have to get your ears checked. That kind of a music we are not talking about. We are talking about Sabhyaha, the audience. So Sabhyaha means a very fitting and a very, sensitive audience, sensitive to the ragas, sensitive to the rhythms. This kind of an audience also is illumined by who? The Nrityashala Deepaha. The Deepa standing in the middle of the dance hall is illumining the patron, the guests of honor, king, queens, and all these people. And then also what is it illumining? The rest of the audience. You can see, oh, you are there too, hello. You can wave. Oh, I knew I would see you here. Want to come sit here? No, you're okay there? Okay, fine. You can do that. You recognize another person. And then Sabhyaha, it illumines. And then what? Finally, Nartaki. Who is Nartaki? The dancer, the performer, the main performer. So first there is, maybe there are curtains, there is maybe an opening act, music, Ganesha Bhajan, all these things, Saraswati Bhajan, and then after that sometimes they have a small kid come and do a small little number to warm up, and then after that the dancer comes and everybody goes wild and claps, wah wah, standing ovation, throwing flowers and all kinds of things, welcoming the dancer. Why? Because she is extremely famous and known for her performances. All this, the Natakashala Deepa, Nrityashala Sthito Deepaha, it is illumining 3 things: Prabhu, Sabhya, and dancer. Deepayed avisheshena means it is not, avisheshena means 2 things. One is in general, avisheshena. in general it is illumining. Second thing is not sequentially. Okay, now Prabhu, because this fellow is important. Now audience. The light now goes, that's a spotlight. That's why I said we can't think of the modern performances. It's the ancient one where everything is out in the open, everything is lit. So, how does this light function? This light is always there. This light always being there, it will illumine everything yugapat, immediately, simultaneously. So, avisheshena means not specifically, and then what is the other one? Avisheshana means spontaneously, all at the same time. Effortlessly, it illumines. Then what? Now, this much is the drishtanta. Drishtanta means the example. And then, now we have to see where our aham, idam and all these things, aham, idam, sakshi, where do they fit? That is going to be unpacked in the next two verses. Let us chant the 12th verse. Ahankaram dhiyam sakshi Vishayanapi bhasayet Ahankaradya bhavepi Swayam bhatyeva purvavat. Okay, so I forgot one more thing here. Deepayed avisheshena, go back to the 11th verse. Tad abhavepi deepyate. Abhava means what? End of the dance concert. The dancer takes a bow, goes away behind the stage. The musicians also take a bow, go away. And then what else is there? Then the audience also leave. In fact, the audience have started to leave sooner because there's going to be a traffic jam, they know. And so even before it finishes, they say, yeah, I've been there, done that, I have seen this last number, I don't need to, and so I'm off. And the audience also packs up. And the patron, of course, the patron doesn't want to interact with the audience because they'll ask autographs, they'll say, give me this, give me that, especially if it's the king. So the king, they will have lots of complaints, give me this, give me that. So the king is hustled away. And then what happens? The lamp continues to burn. Very beautiful, no? The lamp continues to burn. And then what am I seeing now? If I look, let's say I'm a drone and I'm flying overhead this Nrityashala. What will I see? What will I see? Don't say nothing. Yeah. I will see the absence of the dancer, the audience, and who else? And the patron. Yeah. I will see some popcorn wrappers, I will see some Coca-Cola bottles, whatever else they used to have in those days for entertainment, I don't know. So I will see that if I fly overhead like a drone, I will see that there had been an event here, but now I see the absence of the event. I deploy the Anupalabdhi Pramana here, the means of knowledge called, what is it called? The cognition of absence here. So here in this amphitheater, no dancer is to be found. I am late for the performance, I can say. So absence. The absence is also lit up. The presence is also lit up. This is important because we will see this in the next verses, why it is important. So now, ahankara, I notion. Dhiyam. Dhiyam means ahankaram and dhiyam. Okay? And vishayan. Three things are there. Ahankara, I notion. Dhiya, dhi, buddhi. Dhi is buddhi. Ahankara, I notion, buddhi, the intellect. And then Vishaya. Vishaya means what? The objects. The objects of the intellect, Vishayaha. So, there are three things that are illumined internally. What is that? Ahankara, I notion, Buddhi, and then don't say Sakshi. Okay, Sakshi is the illuminer. The other things are in second case. Okay, that's what we have to look at. So the Sakshi is the subject which illumines the Buddhi, the Ahankara, and the objects, sense objects. Bhasayet tapurvavat. As mentioned before, it will shine. It shines. Then what? Not only that, this Sakshi sheds the light on Ahankara. What is Ahankara? Aham vritti. And what is the Vishaya? Idam vritti. So, Ahankara is covered by Aham vritti. Vishayas are covered by Idam vritti. What is this Buddhi in the middle? Suddenly coming. What is this Buddhi? The Buddhi here is that which because it doesn't know, converts, is active in converting the Aham into Idam. The Buddhi is the bridge between the Aham and the Idam, and that which bridges it and says, therefore I am nothing but a bunch of Idams. And the Buddhi, because it is what is that? It is serving the Ahankara now. It is a servant of the Ahankara, and enslaved by the Ahankara, the Buddhi gets into depression, and the Buddhi says, I am as good as Idam alone. Very sad. And so, Tadvat, Purvavat, like we said earlier, where earlier? In the previous verse. Which number is that? 11. As we said in the 11th verse, Purvavat, like we pointed out in the 11th verse, what is happening here? Just like the lamp illumines three things. That's why three things were given. The king, and then the dancer, and then what else? The audience. Now you see it is so beautiful. And now, similarly, the Sakshi also illumines three things. What are those three things? Ahankara, Buddhi, and then Vishayas. Vishayas is equal to the audience. Ahankara, perhaps, what shall we make it equal to? King. And then Buddhi is who? Dancer, makes you dance. Very beautiful. That's why three things over there, and then three things over here. In the Rupaka, and in the Dashtanta also, three things are there. Let us see. Swayam, and then Ahankaradi Abhavepi. So let's say the Ahankara is not there. Oh, that's a difficult proposition. When is the Ahankara not there? In sleep. Very good. Thank God. It's not there in sleep. It doesn't trouble me, and it doesn't trouble my loved ones either, because it is fast asleep. So this Ahankara, what is it? It is sleeping Ahankara. And then, when the Ahankara is not there, and when the Buddhi is also not there. When is the Buddhi not there? My Buddhi is not there most of the time. Most of the time, MIA. What is that? Missing in action. AWOL. Absent without permission, absent without leave. So, my Buddhi is gone most of the time, don't say. Okay, when is the Buddhi not there? Also in sleep. Ahankara and Buddhi are not there. Buddhi includes Manaha. All these things have retracted to a causal form. And so therefore you cannot answer the question truthfully, are you asleep? If you say yes, that means you're not asleep. Whether you say yes or no. If you say yes, you're certainly not asleep. And if you are asleep, you cannot answer this question. So the ahankara, buddhi go to a kind of a seed form in sleep. It's not that they are gone away, they have just gone for a little break. Maybe the performance is not over, maybe it's the interval. In the interval, everybody gets up from their seats and goes, so the buddhi and the ahankara have temporarily resolved. Likewise. And then, what about the Vishayas? In the sleep, there are no Vishayas also, because the buddhi is not illumining the Vishayas. There are no Vishayas in sleep, the buddhi is asleep, the ahankara is asleep. But then, there's only one thing that is awake. Who is that? Sakshi. Alupta drik. The eyelidless seer, the original seer. When you say I see, there is somebody seeing you see. Okay? That somebody here is called Sakshi, and the seer, who is this seer? The eyelidless seer, meaning the one who is never asleep even for a second, does not miss anything. And what does it do? Shines the absence, throws a light on the absence and throws a light on the presence also. Isn't that lovely? Very beautiful. Throws a light on the presence, throws a light on the absence, and then this is, what is this? This is the inner lamp. What is the name of the inner lamp? Sakshi. Okay, next one. Nirantaram bhasamane, nirantaram bhasamane, kutasthe jnapti rupataha, tadbhasa bhasamaneyam, buddhir nrityatyanekadha. Yeah. So now, nirantaram bhasamane. Nirantaram means all the time, without a gap. That's why we call it alupta drik. A seer that never goes away. And if you have eyelids, if you are seeing, even though you say I'm seeing all the time, then when you blink, many things you miss. That's why we say, in a blink of an eye, I was robbed. Everything went away. One can say that. And so, nirantaram bhasa, nirantaram, antaram means with a gap. Nirantaram means without a gap it illumines. Nirantaram bhasamane, and then in the illumined without a gap. And who is this? Kutasthe. Kutasthe means this is Sati Saptami, Bhasamane Kutasthe. When the Kutastha, that we have to see properly what is this Kutastha. Kutastha here is a new word for consciousness, Sakshi. Because we can't really keep Sakshi all the time, because Sakshi also, when there is no Sakshya, when there is nothing to witness, it cannot be called Sakshi. So here, for us it's a new word. For Vidyaranya it's not a new word, because the whole of the 8th chapter was called Kutastha Deepa. Kutastha Deepa it was called, and so then therefore, this is a new word only for us, and we will see that. So, but Kutastha basically is Sakshi, which is in the form of all knowledge, Tadbhasa, and as it shines, in its shine, and what happens? The buddhi dances in many, many forms. Or the buddhi knows many, many dances. Odissi in the morning, Bharatanatyam in the afternoon, Kathak in the evening. More of this we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.